Hey everyone, it is another episode of Write Once, Read Many. I see Vic in the chat, and Vale. Hey. The audience participation question for this week is, what's your least favorite cape names? Please include explanations, as well as alternate names if you so choose. I think I have the music a little loud. Yes, least favorite cape names. And I do notice that I've got those pesky notification noises on. Hey Greg. I think this drawing is really cool. We get to see 4 new characters at once. No, it's all cape names. It doesn't have to directly be from these chapters. You can even do ones that haven't been introduced yet. So from later in this book or in Ward. But yes, just stuff from the real stories. Let's see here. Clearly took a while to make these character designs. I have not watched the speed draw to now, so. Let me see here real quick. Okay, so themes of these chapters. I kind of feel like maybe it's just like an undercurrent, but like Taylor has sort of like she's going out and she's gonna do this fight and stuff, but it seems like she's kind of hopeless under the surface almost. I don't know if I'm just, the vibes in this section of the story are very grim. Oh yeah, Vic's right. The theme of Taylor being a weird freak. And let's go to the finalized version of the drawing. Looks great. Taylor's still blind, so we still have this new art style to represent her being blind, but kind of being able to see things. Yes. Yeah, I don't really have any strong ideas for the theme section. But moving into and this is the Vale compliments the art section too, so feel free to talk about that. I don't even know if I had like a picture in my head of what Raymancer looked like exactly, but I like it. I like it a lot. This guy plays a lot of VR video games, clearly. So chapter 18.5 starts with the screen that they were using for the like video call from Noelle. It goes dark, and so Tattletale says it's only the second worst thing that could have happened, and then some hero asks what the worst thing that could have happened was, and she says that basically Noelle could have just hid, and then they wouldn't have had the benefit of getting all the heroes there, because they would have basically left, and then she would have attacked when they were even weaker. But she may have some sort of artificially imposed time limit, like losing her inner self-control. Which is, I think, the most accurate thing, is that she's losing her sense of self and becoming more and more power crazed, you know. Vale said about the art, this is honestly outstanding. Vic said, Raymancer's wiki had literally nothing. Thank you, thank you. Noelle's a girl boss, but she forgot to gaslight. It's true, it's true. And I don't know if I could say that she's doing any gatekeeping, so I take arguments for it, but Vale says it has a definite feel of teen cape to it, but is also more grounded / realistic than usual, and the matching colors give them a team image as well. She's gatekeeping Vista from the team. That's true. That's true. Yeah, I think part of the thing is they didn't have to have their literal colors. I don't know if they would be this way if she wasn't blind. Let me know if I'm wrong, Vic, but I kind of got the sense that they had a vibes-based colors rather than literal colors. And let's see here. So, Assault gets all mad. He's chiming in whenever he can in this conversation. And then Assault implies that I mean, it seems like the way he phrases it, he's like, we accepted it when the 9 got to Glory Girl and Panacea and when they killed Battery. And he's like listing that as part of the Undersiders' crimes. And it's like, it's a very strange way to view this situation. Vic says Assault's being so annoying. It is so true. Vic said, gather vibes-based colors until Taylor regains sight. Vale says, well, to be fair, the heroes are gatekeeping murder of Undersiders. It's a trade-off. And Vale says, I get it, vibes, colors. I meant it gives them a sense of team from the style, not that it is accurate to the in-world color description. Yeah. I just want it to be clear, they will look less thematically coherent later. So, where are we? People are saying that the Undersiders broke the code, infighting when they should be planning, that kind of stuff. There's some back and forths. Then they're like, it doesn't make sense, the timeline of where you said she'll be, and she's like, she used Vista to move faster, you fools. And I forgot to mention it, but something was clarified like a week and a half ago by 2 + 4 × 5 that was pretty helpful. So 2 weeks ago, when we talked about 18.4 in the briefing room scene that led directly up to this one, Hadhayosh was mentioned and is an alternate name for Behemoth, which, I feel like I should have known that, but I had forgotten. Let's see here. 2 + 4 × 5 is driving, as is usually the case. So anyway, back to the thing. Taylor's being a weird creep, and she's building up her bug forces outside the PRT headquarters and trying to be sneaky about it, but like basically building huge masses of bugs. And she's like, it was really weird how I had more awareness outside the building than inside the building I was inside of. It's she's having one of her dissociation powers moments where she's like, I'm a bunch of bugs. Miss Militia's like, don't underestimate the enemy. Triumph is he's being a true helpful bro, and he's telling Assault basically like, just, we need you to chill so that the Undersiders can trust us. And so as the conversation sort of comes to a close, somebody uses the "what would Battery feel like in this situation" on Assault, and that it was Miss Militia, I see, and he's not very happy about that. So Miss Militia says if they get backstabbed by the Undersiders this time, then she'll basically go with what Assault wants, except she'll push for them to get a kill order from like a court, and then that kind of shocks Taylor. You know, even Taylor is shocked sometimes. She's like, a kill order? It was what they had in place for the Slaughterhouse 9. No holds barred. Official heroes would be allowed to shoot us on sight. Any villain or vigilante that came after us would be allowed to go free, with only a brief questioning for the paperwork after killing one of us. To top it off, anyone would be able to donate or post amounts for our heads. So, like, it says, amounts would be added to running totals. We'd be weighting jackpots for any bounty hunter or assassin looking for a big score. So, yeah, it's a whole thing. Also, there are side characters whose whole deal is that they hunt down kill order capes for money. Let's see here. So there's a big internal struggle for a second with Taylor, and then she speaks first from her group and says, "I'm willing to accept that if my team is." And then Tattletale seemingly intentionally hops in first and says, "You're the boss." So she's really pushing the public image of Taylor being the leader of the team. It's a big priority for her right now. Gru agrees next, then Rachel, and then Imp and Regent are nodding as well. Oh, I guess Rachel's last, because Imp and Regent are nodding at the same time. The Gru said, yeah. But, let's see. Then Tattletale brings up the concept of Noelle lying about Vista being dead, and it's she sort of brings up why she believes it, but then Miss Militia says they should probably trust what Tattletale had said, and so she describes that basically, she's keeping it secret that Vista's alive so that she'll be able to produce more clones after the current ones are killed off and take them by surprise. And also that she could be potentially storing other people for longer periods of time. So it might be a long play if they hadn't figured it out, but they did just now. They ask how you keep Vista captive, and she says people, but the answer is that it's biological matter, and when you're in the center of a stomach, you're surrounded on all sides by biological matter. So that's fun for Vista. And then Miss Militia takes control with the situation. She says usually Eidolon doesn't take point, and she's the ranking parahuman in Brockton Bay. So she splits people up. She says to stick to their usual teams so that they have good coordination, and to use standard stranger countermeasures. She wants everyone to keep eye lines on each other. But I gotta be honest, it's pretty obvious when someone's a clone, because they're not wearing any clothes, and they look probably a little half-baked. But anyway. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, and they say that it's visual IDs only because the clones will know the passwords. Vale says, I bet Vista grows up to be super cool if she manages to get over this early trauma. Vic says, later when they're like, they're gonna mistake Taylor for a clone. It's like, come on, guys. You really think Taylor looks just like a clone? Come on, guys. Yeah, it was savage, Vic. It's like, oh, god damn. Anyway. Dragon is not going to be on site for the fight because she's trying to fight the Slaughterhouse 9, which is admittedly just a different S-class threat also. So, not like they're wasting resources on something low priority. And then she is providing armbands, which will be a helpful thing to keep everybody coordinated. Yeah, so they split forces. They're sending like a wards team after Flechette and Parian. Like a pretty good one. It's Mirden's team of teens. Teen team. And then Chevalier is going after, and his team is going after the Brockton Bay wards who had left in the previous scene. And then the entire rest of the group is going to try and track down Noelle as a big strike force. Then Tattletale... Oh, this, I got it out of order. Tattletale talks at this point about how using Vista's power, she went super far. Greg says, as Vic said, that's the theme of Taylor being a weird freak. Vale says, even more savage if they mistake her for a clone. Mistake her clone for a popular high schooler. Ooh. The evil version of Skitter is just like, she's like hot and Emma. She acts like Emma, I mean. Let's see here. Oh yeah, so Tattletale's like, I've got a plan, but for the plan, we're gonna have to go help Ballistic, because Ballistic has who we really need, Scrub, and then people are like, Scrub? What is wrong with you people? Then Taylor provides the power description, uncontrolled matter annihilation bursts in his immediate vicinity. But Tattletale's like, I think I know a secret about his power, because my power reveals all secrets, sometimes. But she says he's a blaster 8, easy, if not a 10. I think probably 8 with caveats about the fact that if you're actually there, it does ridiculous damage. But the short range, I think, is pretty limiting. It's like if you just had someone with, like, Legends power, and they could blast him really easy. Or, like, any weak blaster power that's long range. So they bring up Circus, Leet, and Uber being alive, which will lend credence later to their claims that they weren't blown up in the bombing downtown when, there are superpowered clones of them alive. And then... Yeah, Noelle's actually going in the same direction as those three. Let's see here. So they leave the Chicago Wards team. Only 4 members of the actual Wards team are there, but they leave these 4 capes with them as their backup. So it's all of the Undersiders and these four. Oh, we got 2 + 4 × 5 says Evil Skitter. I'm going to de-escalate the situation. Vic says Evil Skitter. I'm going to let people know my true intentions. Vale says Evil Skitter joins wards. I'm glad we all have our different, but similarly themed Evil Skitters. I mean, you guys are all just Skitter is good guy now, but mine is I guess out of theme. Let's see here. Still feeling weird and naked, despite being fully clothed. The never nude Taylor has her best friend, the bitch, kick the boards off of a window, and without a word, she does, and then 1 bazillion bugs come into the room, and then Taylor puffs up her hair and makes her cape float so that she looks more stately. And then she feels good about herself again, and she also likes to put bugs on other people. It makes her feel good when she does. 1 bazillion bugs. Yeah, exactly. That's right. 2 + 4. Fixes. This is a crazy move after working so hard to convince people she's not evil. It's true. It literally feels like a really minor emotional lash out where she just like can't help herself but just like, I need bugs, I need them. Vic says she's like, I've been too soft and human. I just think she can't help herself and doesn't really consider it in those terms, you know what I mean, in that moment. Bill says sometimes a girl has to accessorize. Yeah. So I think it's a great Taylor character moment where she just like, well, it's exactly like Vic said in the themes, acts like a freak. Oof, I need some water. So she does describe them. They are, as you see on screen, there's Tecton, who's wearing a metal suit of Tinker armor, and it's got like pistons and stuff. There is Wanton, who is like wearing the loose-fitting martial arts gear, as though his body was a weapon. There's Grace, who's wearing something like martial arts gi and a mask. And then there is Raymancer, who is like some sort of person with lenses. Although I think the lenses might be only projections, so I think Taylor has like a hard time perceiving the lenses or whatever, because when Gru puts them up and says he only has 1 lens, she doesn't really understand what he's talking about. Yeah, maybe the lens on his face is worked into the costume entirely, like a real physical lens, and then he has multiple projections that are directly powers based, something like that. Vic says, well, after she's done it, she's like, good, now they'll respect it. Let me look at that real quick. I mean, she probably is like that, because she's like that a lot. But, fighting stances, fleet map. Okay. Fighting stance. Tina's cute. Okay. It meant at least that they'd get a chance to realize they weren't under attack. The bugs, da 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 da. Okay, no, here it is. You're right. It's right here. It's I just alarmed the people we'd be working with, but a small show of power would help ensure we got respect and cooperation. I know she says that in her head, and I do believe that in that moment she believes that, but I think that Taylor has like a lot of lash out moments that she can rationalize afterward. That's I guess what I'm saying. So it's just different interpretations of the same material. Um. Bu, 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 bu. 2 plus 4 times 5 says wanting wantons. She has come so far from a bit cautious with Black Widows in 1.1 to now when she just wants to feel blanketing weight of a million insects crawling on her. Yeah, I mean, like, she has, like, actual negative emotional reactions to not having a big pile of bugs on her. Um, and she's clearly, like, uncomfortable until she has the pile again. Uh, that's part of my perspective. Talk to you later, 2 plus 4 times 5. Bye. Let's see. So yeah, they've got the bugs. We sort of get descriptions of the people, but since you can see them on screen, then you know. But she gets a sense for their vibe because they form a fighting formation that seems meant to defend Raymancer, and Raymancer is clearly doing something where he might be able to shoot ranged attacks. So she kind of gets their whole deal before they even act. They introduce each other. Tattletale says, "Your names and powers." And we get, Tecton introduce himself. When he names his fellow people, they start getting jabs. Isn't Wanton a kind of noodle? And then Imp makes fun of Raymancer's name. They're really running out of stuff to call superheroes. So, they both get in some good jabs. And then Tattletale jokingly corrects that a wonton is a kind of dumpling, not a noodle. So actually, Regent was wrong. Don't worry, wonton's just a dumpling. And then Tecton corrects their pronunciation again. Wanton, like wanton destruction. But, equally intimidating is wonton destruction if they were firing giant dumplings at us of superpowered nature. That could be pretty bad. So, let's see here. TC22. I'm not sure what Vale is indicating with TC22, but I'm sure that it will be obvious to other people. Let's see here. So, Tecton also has a cool thinker power where he can his brain can understand like geology and stuff. That's cool. This entire conversation is spoilers for my answer to the weekly question. Okay. And take care 2 plus 4 times 5 because it's 22 when you do the math. Yep, I got it. Very good, very good. It was just like, it was a bit shocking because there's a hardware device that I deal with a lot that's called a TC22, and I was like, what? Anyway. Yeah, traumatic, as Vic said. Seeing that just pop up in chat from you, Vale. But anyway. They say that having Tinkers against Noelle is probably a good bet because they won't come out with gear, but that is true in the short term. So if they plan to end this fight quickly, that's true. But it is Tattletale also in a previous chapter, in I believe 18.4, who argued to Miss Militia that if Noelle gets a hold of any Tinker, there's a possibility of her becoming an S-class threat because a Tinker could possibly do duplication stuff with the right power application. So if she just spits out tons and tons of copies, you know. But, yeah. Bill says, TC 2 plus 4 times 5 takes too long to type trauma for me. How to balance the trauma. Oh, man. Let's see here. So they ask if they need their info, and Grace is all like, "No, we know who you are." And it's kind of and Imp laughs and yells, "We're famous!" Which is a lot of fun. Imp's being a lot of fun this whole section. But yeah, I mean, kind of a fool's move to not let people tell you what they do. Like that could have been some good information. But Grace had too much pride and not giving them enough grace. Skitter takes the armband after intimidating a PRT person, and then she puts it on herself, but then has to have, she like puts her name in, but has to have Tattletale confirm it. And they're still playing off that she's not blind, and like no one catches on to the fact that she's blind. I guess just their weird dynamic is just expected. She is a weird freak, so who knows? They strap on the tracker armband that they're all using for the fight. Skitter's riding on the back of the Doge with Rachel. The rest are going in vans and stuff. Tattletale says they shouldn't cross paths with Assault, because he'll try to attack them if they do. And then they start heading out to go try and find Ballistic. And then they'll meet up with the crew that's going to Parian after that. And Skitter wants to pick up Atlas for better transportation because her injuries are making themselves known as she rides the dog. And Atlas is a pretty smooth ride. And she suspects there are flying capes that are keeping watch over them, that Miss Militia has assigned to them, but she can't actually tell because she can't see them. She has a big internal bout of sort of worry and so forth that something will happen that will get them the kill order on their heads, like any kind of accidental friendly fire or whatever might be what they use as an excuse. And then she feels like all wobbly and weird, and she's like, "Whoa, I'm physically drained." And then she realizes that like they're actually getting their surroundings bent by vistas. There's evil vistas, and apparently there is a name. I'm gonna try and keep track of these because a lot of these side characters are named in the tags at the bottom of each chapter. But the evil vista is called Scape. I will be calling her Evil Vista, but for the record, we'll all know that her name is Scape. So, let's see here. She sweeps her bugs over the area, and she realizes that she hadn't thought this situation through fully, and is surprised that she doesn't find them in costumes. Rachel has to use a dog to, like, ram into the van to move it out of the way so that it's far enough so none of them get hit by a falling building or by the various debris from said building. And then they sort of crash anyway. I mean, they like don't fully crash or anything, but they stop for a second, it looks like, and then the evil Vistas are setting up buildings for future collapses, and they're getting trapped, and she's like, oh no, Noelle is like me, but amplified by a level, because instead of sending bugs, she sends capes. But just like me, she's terrible to deal with. Yeah, the thing is, worse, she was better at it than I was. She was faster, her senses reached further, and the individual at the center of her army was a nightmarish force unto herself. I would say that's probably how most capes feel dealing with Skitter when they end up in a one-on-one. They're like, dear God, why? What have I done in my life to get myself here into this situation? Or at least that's how I would feel. But final chapter thoughts. I really like meeting the Chicago wards. Big fan. And I don't know why, but I find this fight, like, pretty unmemorable. Like, I know exactly what happens in it, but when I'm thinking of this book, I never think of this fight. It's like a good use of everyone's powers, and interesting things kind of happen, and, like, the fact that Taylor can't see is, like, a major factor, so there's, like, a lot going on, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't really stick in my mind. Which is a carryover into the next chapter. I'm glad Imp is getting a lot of jokes to say. Jumping into the next chapter, just going right into it, I guess. So 18.6. They've already called out for help to Miss Militia. They're saying where they are and who they're fighting. Then Skitter has to quickly throw away her armband because it's being affected by a Vista's power. But as Tattletale informs us, this Vista is much more deadly than the standard style Vista. Anything that she changes with her power becomes radioactive dust rather than just warping into, different shape. And radioactive dust is pretty bad, so they use Gru's power to block the radiation. As we learned early on in the book, they had done power testing, and Gru's power can block radio signals, which we've actually seen used on several occasions. Like in Arc 16, when he blocked out the signals to the drones, and they didn't have good enough non-signaled programming to not just drift to the ground, because if they had dropped on a civilian, safety, there's reasons. So once again, we get the usefulness of Gru's power. And then Regent's a bit pithy about the idea that they'd die in a few years since the world's ending. And then Skitter points out that they should probably avoid radiation poisoning either way. I I think I think it's worth noting for Regent who may not know this, but radiation poisoning is quite painful. So bad way to go. So they sort of come together in a group. They got bugs covering the vistas, although it doesn't seem to be affecting how they're like acting. So maybe they have a sense of the surroundings just based on powers alone. Taylor is like, I do not, or Skitter rather. I've been calling her Taylor. Almost like she's one and the same. But Skitter's, kind of going all out, biting on these evil vistas with a bunch of bugs. One of them is described as freakishly tall with limbs that zigzagged. That's the one who has the power of radioactive dust. Tecton points out the obvious that they have to stop her first. Except then Skitter's like, that one's actually the priority because she's dropping buildings on us. Apparently their group hadn't realized that the one on top of the roof was even there. And then apparently she's the one setting up all the controlled demolitions that are going to drop buildings on them. So, a problem. Tecton has Raymancer shoot at it, and Raymancer starts firing away. He's initially surprised that the light is being bent, and then Tattletale corrects that space is being bent, and then Raymancer's like, that won't affect me, and then he starts blasting Evil Vista. I like all the stuff that Taylor can't see, where Regent says, like, how the fuck does that work? The laser didn't even, and we don't even know what he's, like, I like the vagueness. Like, some of the funniest and best moments for me in Parahumans are lines like, it was night when the boat was attacked, or whatever Mark says. Like, incredible line, never gets expanded upon ever. And it's just so funny. Oh my god. Some of the obscured information in this story. Skitter corrects them that the Vista who's destroying buildings is still alive, even though she was hit and so forth. But Raymancer's already shooting at the radioactive Evil Vista, which, I would prioritize her too. And then they do a combo move where they launch. Tecton does like a gauntlet punch, and Grace uses that as like a platform. Oh wait, what is this? I guess they don't do that move here. I do believe they do it at some point where he. Oh no, that is happening here. She jumps up and then he does the explosive pile driver, and she uses her temporary invincibility to just, DuckTales launch herself up there. Shovel Knight, all that stuff. And then, I really like Grace's power. I wouldn't want to have it because the timing needed for it. I mean, like, I just feel like I'd fuck up the timing. Vista screws up the trajectory, so Grace doesn't actually smash into anyone, but it does take up focus time for one of the two non-radioactive Vistas. Rachel's having the dogs jump around. Let's see here. Vista's using evil Vistas are using barriers to block Raymancer shots. Bugs are biting people. Skitter's feeling some type of way about the fact that she is killing this evil Vista, despite all the things. She says, "My bugs were covering every inch of her skin, and I had them biting and tearing at her flesh. Her skin was hard, gnarled, and calloused, but I did the damage where I could, at the elbows, knees, and neck, drawing blood. I tried to tell myself that she was a monster, a mockery of a real person, and she was too dangerous to be allowed to live. With that kind of unhinged mental state and her ability to irradiate people, I gripped my teeth. No choice." So, you know, Gru covers the more irradiated bulges, but then Tattletale's like, "Oh no, it was that was a feint. She was doing two at once." And a bunch of the irradiated dust explodes out, and Raymancer breathes it in, and he's coughing. And it also gets all over Wanton's form. And then Gru blasts it with darkness, but it's kind of already too late for Raymancer. Boop, 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 boop. It says, "Gru turned and extended a hand toward the tall Vista. With my swarm spread out around her, I could sense minuscule explosions appearing all around her, see the flashes of light with the bug's distorted visions. The individual detonations weren't much larger than golf balls, and even the direct impacts weren't enough to kill my larger bugs." And he says, "How the fuck do you use Raymancer's power?" Wanton says, "You copy powers?" Tattletale says, "Thought you guys read up on us. Gru, focus the beams with the lenses. The beam appears from the center, so line them up to refine the beam into something more effective. In case you haven't noticed, I've only got one lens there." And this is when Skitter can't sense anything with the bugs, which I find very funny. So, yeah, I think this is like, he's got the one lens on his costume, then like, that she can feel, and then he like projects 3 more in front of his face or something like that. Maybe more than 3. I don't know why my brain kept going back to 3 though. Maybe it's because Wildbow loves the rule of 3s so much. There's a chance you'll be able to hear my dog snoring in the background, but it's just life. So, you know, Regent is hobbling one of the Vistas to keep her off balance. Wanton is floating about. And then, Gru's not being very helpful, but Bastard is closing on Vista, and then given that Regent was making her fall over and stuff, she actually can't escape from them despite the space warping. And then Imp tases the Vista before she can escape, because, you know, Imp can sneak up on peeps. And then Rachel has Bentley grab on to the evil Vista, and then gives the kill command. Oh my god! And then he chomps her. It's let me see. It's one of those moments, you know. The bulldog picked up the Vista in his jaws and bit down until an audible series of cracks marked the breaking of a dozen major bones. He shook her like a rag doll, no doubt snapping her neck and aggravating every injury he'd just inflicted. The girl was dead in an instant. You know, pretty dork. That's dark, but pronounced crazy. So, she's specifically making sure Bastard isn't the one killing people, which she'll explain later, is because he is more likely to be more crazy and feral because he's part wolf, and that she wants to make sure to keep him from killing anyone for more time than she would possibly forever. I forget exactly if that's explained here or later. And Skitter finds Rachel a bit haunting in the ease of murder, I guess, is how we would say it, maybe. Tecton does a thing where he punches a thing, and then there's a crack that rushes toward Vista, and it's unclear if, like, he's exactly hitting her with, like, a stone thing, like an earthbend, but I like to think that under all that debris, she's getting one of those, like, up from the ground earthbend moves where it just strikes you from below. And Gru is still semi-ineffectually shooting with Raymancer's power. Taylor's still trying to eat people alive. It's getting weird and gross. You know, there's some gross descriptions here about bugs eating into her and blood pouring out and stuff. And then Wanton is smacking her. They're just winning, you know. The main point is they're sort of taking the fight. A group of flying capes show up, and they talk about whether they should take containment foam and take people captive, but then Miss Militia gives the order, like the kill order. And one of the hero capes shoots the downed Vista in the face. You know, in the words of Penny Parker, they have to be ruthless. The dying screams of one of these Vistas is ringing in Skitter's ears despite being gone, and says, "It had been way too human for my tastes. Almost like these clones were cloned humans. And still human." And then she thinks about fighting the 9, and she says this thing that she herself thinks maybe sounds lame, which is, "When I tried to hurt them, they got hurt. It shook me." And then she clarifies that even knowing that they, like, kind of have to do this, and that the clones are, like, trying to murder innocent people as best they can, she still feels some type of real negative way about it. And Raymancer says what we all had guessed: "I'm going to die." And it's true. And Tattletale says, "There's a good chance, yeah." And Tecton says, "I mean, I love Lisa here, but Tecton's right." He's like, "Hey, don't be a bitch." Which would be funnier if he said that to bitch, but I think obviously the scene works much better this way. But she says into the armband that Raymancer is down, and that they need a new armband for Skitter. And ballistics moving bases. They're sort of discussing strategy. Yeah, they're gonna bring a decontamination shower as quickly as they can. Wanton has to stay in his form because he got the radioactive material into the body, and the time it's going to take them to bring the decontamination shower is longer than he's ever held his form for. But Raymancer tells Tecton to go on with the fight, and that he'll stick with Wanton and give him the pep he needs to break his old record and stay in the telekinetic form long enough to get the radioactive, or anti-radiation shower. What is it? The decontamination shower. So yeah. It's very sad. Raymancer seems cool, but our rip in peace, as they say. We will not be seeing Raymancer in the future. Amy sending herself to prison was so selfish. She could have saved Raymancer. Tattletale's driving. He gets into the van. Tecton gets in the van. The peeps get back on Bentley. And then let's see here. Skitter thinks about getting in the van with Tattletale and Gru, but decides that since she's being offered a ride by Rachel, she should take it to keep her relationship with Rachel as positive as possible. Let's see here. So, sort of thinking of where they should go. The flying capes are roving around the area. They don't seem to find Noelle, but then they get an armband signal that they know where Noelle is, but Eidolon is going to engage solo with Echidna, which I forget if they've called her that yet, but they shall start calling Noelle Echidna. So Eidolon has found their primary target, and Tattletale asks why into the armband. They don't get a response. And then it's a bit of a weird conversation, but Tattletale rolls down the window so they can talk. And then they stop moving around, and then they say about Eidolon's taking a big risk by doing this thing that he wants. The heroes are like, you should just trust Eidolon. He knows what he's doing. And they're like, no way, bro. I don't trust Eidolon. And they're like, I think this line is great. It's from Grace, and it's really funny to me. He's the top hero in the Protectorate. His agenda is doing the right thing. Is this what you guys do? You analyze the situation until you've twisted it into a scenario where you just have to do something? Yeah, Regent said. We're really good at it, too. Classic Regent moment. Skitter's like, look, I need you guys to hear me out. You can still have a say, but You gotta at least listen to me. And then she is like, do you remember the last fight where we fought 3 of Vista and it was terrible and Raymancer basically died? She doesn't say all those words, but she does in her heart. What if it was Eidolon and we were all dead? She says. And then Tattletale tells them that he's desperate because he's losing his powers and that he thinks that putting himself into these dangerous situations are what makes his powers stronger. So he needs to be in... From his own perspective, he feels like he needs to do this fight to test things out and to get stronger in an environment that's slightly safer than the Endbringers, basically. Skitter thinks that Noelle's actually being very subtle compared to Leviathan in terms of damage, but the fight has barely begun, so, you know. And she reminds herself that the sun isn't up yet, and Dinah had said that Noelle wouldn't do any real damage until dawn. Which, you know, the fact that the sun isn't up makes a lot of sense why Tecton couldn't see a vista on a faraway roof, frankly. 9 minutes until sunrise, they say. And then Tattletale tries to give some advice through the armband, tries to ask if they can call Eidolon off, but she doesn't get a response. It doesn't even send their message, maybe. Unclear. And then she's like, okay, we just gotta go. And Grace says, no, we're not going. And then they say that they're willing to get the kill order because this is too important, basically. And then Tecton joins them. He's like, staying in his seat in the car, and he's like, yeah, let's go. Let's battle. They believe it enough to go this far. They either got an unhealthy amount of conviction or they're insane. Or both. Or both. If it's conviction, I can accept that they might know what they're doing. The same argument you made about Eidolon being an upper echelon member of the Protectorate applies to them. They didn't get here by being terrible at what they do. They did get to the point that they're about to get kill orders put on them, and you stand to get in trouble with the wards. What's the worst they can do? As a tinker, I'm a protected species. Not like they're going to fire me. If these guys are right, they might need our help. If they're wrong, maybe I get a bit in trouble. I'm willing to take that bet. Yeah, and so they go along as a group. Grace is mad. As previously discussed, she does not handle this situation with a lot of grace. She has physical but not emotional grace. I think the name is perhaps ironic. So everyone's in, and they're going toward where Eidolon is. And because of bugs, Taylor can sense them before they're actually there. Takes them a few minutes to find it. It says, Eidolon was in the air, flying a safe distance above Noelle. And Noelle. I couldn't get a read on Noelle. My bugs disappeared into her as they made contact, their signal distorting and cutting off. It left me with a hazy picture. She was big. African elephant big. It didn't get much more than that. Or I didn't get much more than that. And then the two of them are talking, and the only thing that Taylor catches is Eidolon saying 2 words. One was coil, and another was cauldron. Dun, dun, dun. shocking stuff. So, gotta let the dog out of the room. She just puked in the corner for some reason, so she's gonna wander off and do her thing. Yeah, I'm actually gonna take a second to let her out the front door. Alright, now she can wander about the yard if she needs to puke again. Anyway, that interruption aside, you know, dun dun dun, the chapter is over. So another 2-chapter grouping and then cliffhanger with another interlude coming up. For this arc, that's the whole thing. It's 2 chapters and an interlude. 2 chapters and an interlude. It's pretty good, frankly. Makes the pacing so that only every other chapter has a cliffhanger. I do feel like there is a problem in some parts of the early story where there's like every chapter's got to be a mini cliffhanger syndrome. To just a little bit too much of a degree, but you know, what are you gonna do? It's the very start of the story. But my final chapter thoughts. Yeah, it's a good chapter. I really like the conversation between Grace and Tecton and the Undersiders when they're deciding whether or not to go. Vale says, well, it is a serial. Yes, I understand. It is what it is. But I just feel like the pacing of this section is notably good. But yes, this chapter is not like crazy memorable. I mostly, when I think of it, I think of the conversation that I just mentioned where Tecton explains why he's going to go with them. Which I like quite a bit. Yeah. I already talked about arc stuff a bit. Gonna move on to characters. So we've got Taylor. She's kind of a mess right now. She's like a terrible mess right now, and she's just moving from action to action, but she's physically and emotionally compromised, and she's like, wow, I don't like that I'm using bugs to eat people alive. It feels bad, man. You know, and being blind is just not helping her mind state either. She's not having she's not liking it. It is improving her use of bugs, but at what cost? Talking about Lisa, she's really taken charge here. Taylor's doing just enough to keep her sort of leader thing going, but Lisa is drawing the conversations forward, and she's putting out tons of information, and she's coordinating and convincing people of things. So you know, she's kind of, she is doing her thing to a high degree. A bit too flippant for the hero's taste, but it is Lisa after all. Brian doesn't get a lot of character moments. His power is pretty useful, and it is really funny when he's like, I've only got one lens. So he gets a couple good moments, but he's not like center stage or anything. Rachel, I I think these are actually, like, she's not center stage either, but she's got several pretty important character moments here, like Taylor's, worried about after she kills the clone and stuff, and she feels a bit haunted, and then she is like, she's conscious whenever she's dealing with Rachel about, like, oh, well, I need to focus on being accommodating to her needs to keep her in like a favorable mode. And I mean, that's fine. That's not, I don't consider that a negative, but it's just like, it shows that Taylor's thinking through Rachel's needs and like how she needs to interact with her and stuff. So I think that's good, actually. And then Alec Regent's getting in a lot of good lines in these chapters. I think Regent and Imp, Aisha, they both get a chance to shine in this section. They're big highlights for arcs 18 and 19. Tons of comedy moments, really endeared themselves to the crowds. I think they are. I think like some characters I do feel like are overrated. Like I like Rachel a lot, but think she's a little overrated. But like Imp, correctly rated, very high. Oh, the dog is back. I gotta go close the front door. Alright, sorry for those minor interruptions. So, Aisha. Hannah. Miss Militia. She is, well, I mean, she's just the character. She's very much just, like, being herself. She's the character as we've seen up to now. In her leadership role, she's very good at this. And she is indeed ruthless. So, I don't have that much more to say about that. The deputy director, he's only in it for a moment, and he's like, you get the wheel. You take this situation, Miss Militia. So that was his only real thing. And then Ethan, the first name of Assault, he's being a real disruptive asshole. How did Vic say it earlier? Assault is being so annoying. Yeah, agreed. Oh my god. Boop, 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 boop. So yes, in these chapters, Assault is being so annoying. And I mean, we know why. He blames them for Battery's death, even though that's kind of crazy, given the circumstances of Battery's death. And then we get Rory, basically on the Undersider's side. He's just like, listen, we just gotta do what we gotta do. Because he's already like, we already put up with letting Defiant back in the fold. You're gonna just have to bite the bullet and deal with the Undersiders. And then we've got Tecton, cool new character. Art highlight for the next 4 characters, Tecton included. He's the he's the like building demolition and geology tinker, and he's really good at, when he's allowed to let loose, just like punching his way through things and stuff. And then controlled demolition and crap. He's great. Grace. But to talk about his character, he's like actually really willing to believe in Taylor, like pretty early, because he kind of he listens to what she's saying and he believes in the results that have happened so far, like the fact that he justifies, like, they keep winning, right? Which is pretty important in a Cape context. Let's see here. He's a pretty reasonable guy. I like Tecton. He's one of my favorite side characters. I'm sure I've said that about a lot of side characters, but he's one of them. And then Grace herself, very standoffish, has a problem with the Undersiders right now. Her lack of social grace is made up for by her physical grace. Vale says he is attempting to use the truly subversive strategy of believing Skitter to defeat Skitter. It's true. Then after Grace, we've got Wanton there, and Wanton can turn into a telekinetic storm of debris, and honestly, we don't get much of his personality in these chapters. Let me see. When does Wanton even talk? She bends light? You copy powers? His demeanor is shocked. Let's see here. Yeah, he really doesn't get a lot to do. He doesn't say anything in the first chapter. And then Raymancer. Rip in peace, Raymancer. He seems like a cool guy or whatever, probably. And his power leads to funny hijinks because of Taylor's blindness. And then I put heroes here because there's at least 2 unnamed heroes who speak in 18.5. And it seems like generally the heroes dislike the Undersiders, as is expected. And then I have here Scape. Evil Vista. We learn that, maybe some people are too evil to live, like when they're acting like a Slaughterhouse 9 person and just murdering people all the time. It's bad, actually. I'm sorry, Evil Vista, but you wanted to murder people too much. You were really into it. As far as powers knowledge and world building, we get tons of powers knowledge. Seeing this much variation in the powers, seeing what we're going to be up against in the coming section, we learn tons about like I guess we get like a primer on like the most basic ways that powers will be changed and stuff. And there's clearly like a decent amount of variation between all 3 of them. And sometimes they'll just look more or less like the regular power. And again, we do get to see the heroes being ruthless. I guess that's all I gotta say about the powers knowledge and world building right now. So a lot of the stuff we just talked about directly in the summary and stuff, but we learned these Forces powers, the stuff that I talked about several times already. For the bonus section, I did not draw a portrait this week. I decided that I will just do it as often as I can, and I have the energy for it, but that if I make it a weekly thing and that I just don't do it a bunch of weeks when it's weekly, that I will, like, I don't want to set a goal that I'm just going to fail, so I'd rather just be realistic and be like, okay, I'll do it when I can do it. So I do not have a bonus image this week. But for audience participation, it seems like there are several answers. Got 4 whole answers. That's like the whole audience. Okay, so first is Vale saying, my least favorite cape name is Peacoat because it sounds so unhygienic, though it is a stylish sort of cape. My least favorite cape name is, in these chapters, is Wanton, because I can't read it without thinking of Chinese food. If I named myself with their power set / personality, I would have chosen Tumult. A bit of chaos from humor and from power set, and it seems to fit. That's a pretty good name. If I might ask, when is Peacoat from? I mean, I obviously know what a peacoat is in real life, and have worn many, but although I haven't in like a long time. It was more like when I was in my early 20s that I would wear peacoats, but whatever. You consider a peacoat an actual cape? I would not consider a peacoat a cape. Huh. I guess. Like, is a leather jacket a cape? Anyway, moving on to the next answer. Well, perhaps Vale types or does not. But Vic says, Grace, you can't just use a word so commonly used as a name. It's dumb. You can only do that if you're like really cool and powerful and famous. The exception is if Grace's civilian name is also Grace. That would be funny. Bill says, yes, from the definition of cape and in context of trying to be funny, answering your question, I consider it a peacoat to be a cape. Okay, I can understand the stretch for humor, but like, in a real context, never. Greg's is, my first instinct was to pick one of the merchants. Skidmark, Squealer, Scrub, Mush, truly bottom-of-the-barrel names, but at least they fit because they're bottom-of-the-barrel people. So my actual pick is Jack Slash. He sounds like he stole his name from an edgelord fanfic character. He sounds like he would self-declare Super Magic... he'd self-declare himself Super Magic Dream Parade's nemesis, and also have a fanboy shrine to them in his basement. I know he deliberately picked a name that challenges convention, but it just came out silly. 2 + 4 × 5 says the name Raymancer sounds like it belongs to a newbie ward that ran out of good blaster names, which is exactly what happened, I assume. It's so funny. Like, I don't know why, but I think Raymancer is a perfectly suitable cape name, and the main reason I wouldn't want to use it is because I can clearly tell that other people have like negative perception of the name, but like if other people hadn't mentioned it, like I would have thought like that's a pretty cool cape name. But as far as my least favorite cape name, Well, as a slightly different, I mean, I'm going to have a real answer in a second, but as a slightly different tack to answer the question, I don't like that Storm Tiger, which is a really cool sounding name and sounds like a Mega Man X boss. I I don't like that Storm Tiger is, instead of being Storm Eagle, a Nazi. So it's a bummer that a good name was used on Real Dipshit. Let me think. What names do I not? I think I like more cape names than other people do. I do think Victor is kind of a dumb one, which I know that Vic had said and I had argued against. It's not, I don't think it's dumb for the same reason she thinks it's dumb, but I do think it's a little dumb. Because he fucking loses a lot. You can't name yourself that and then lose a bunch. Storm Tiger is a ripoff of Thundercats. It clearly demonstrates Wildbow is inspired by the show for writing Worm. Yeah, this is just the Thundercats ripoff. Like the whole thing. That's why everyone's cat people. You know what I can do? I can just go to, instead of like pondering, Parahumans wiki category characters. I think I don't like Arima much. It doesn't seem like a name. It's a fallen cape, and it doesn't feel like they would name her that. I don't know. Maybe it's a demon that's very whatever, but Vil says don't sort by bad names. That's cheating. Very much cheating. Oh, you know what I don't like is Bambina. It's just, I mean, I get it kind of fits her personality, but it doesn't match her power and all. I don't know. I don't like Bambina. So that's my answer. Is Bambina's a crappy cape name. Alternate cape names. Tiny Missile. I don't have a good alternate cape name. Well, I'm going to start wrapping up the show. So if anyone has any last comments, now is the time to last comment. Let's see here. So starting up the old music. Slambina. I literally think Slambina is a better name than Bambina. There's more. It's a bad. I don't think it's a good suggestion, or that she should go with it, but it is better. You're welcome, Vale, as always. Thank you for being here. So, the music again is Queen Scourge by ScarlettXOX, who you can find at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Our Discord server can be found at the link in the description of the stream as well as the channel. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there's a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online.org. So, I'm going to let this outro music play out. Talk to you next week or whatever. Bye!